few days ago, we asked for your Kings Island stories on the Kings Island Season Pass Holder Facebook group. We got a lot of responses. Here's part two. Hello, everybody. Alongside Don Helbig, I'm Ryan Sir. And this is Tower Topics.
Tower Topics is a podcast by Kings Island fans for Kings Island fans because that's who we are, and that is who we care about.
Yeah, so if you didn't listen to part one, this is an anthology, so you don't necessarily have to listen to part one to understand part two. But I, of course, encourage you to listen to both. But let's without further ado, short and sweet. Jason Lewis, watching at the time my 5-year-old daughter ride the kiddie coasters with my dad. Another multi-generational one, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you love these kind of stories, and that's what Kings Island about is creating those memories that are going to last a lifetime. And for Jason, he's always going to remember watching his daughter, 5 at the time, riding those rides with his dad.
Yeah.
Next, we have Chris Fry, and he says this guy, meaning his son, he said just made the 54-inch mark at the park yesterday. Asked him what new ride he wanted to ride. Straight up said Diamondback. Let's go. He was all cool, calm, and collected going into row 4. He killed it there. Then we went to Orion and then on to Flight of Fear. Totally forgot about Invertigo because typically it's shut down when we visit. He said after it was all said and done, we rode Diamondback 2 times, Orion once, Flight of Fear 2 times. Got to Invertigo, rode that twice. He said, rode lots of other rides. He said, I'm not a huge marathon rider, but all day, 10.5 hours later, we had 30 rides in. He had 30 rides in, and I had 22. He said, I'm sore today, and I work tonight. But no, I mean, just a great story, and it's always exciting, for a parent when a child hits that height where they can now get on certain rides. I can remember my daughter, when she reached the height threshold to be able to ride, rides like the Racer, and then later on, other ones in the park. It was just always really exciting, and it's one of the hardest things as a parent too is when your child doesn't understand why they can't ride, because they're not tall enough, or they always want to get measured. My daughter and I would be there 4 or 5 times a week, and every day she wanted to go up to see how much more she needed to go to ride the Racer, and she was still at that time like 2 inches or whatever away from it. And I'd always be like, Maria, it's going to be the same as it was last week. No, I grew this week. And then when she finally hit it, what a big day that was. So those are the kind of memories, that Chris is talking about right here, that you remember those forever.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have kids, and my brother and sister's kids are not to the age of the park yet, but I will say that having a lot of friends and now they have their own kids, and kind of like experiencing it with them when their kid hits just 54 inches or whatever is an incredible experience. It's really neat. But all right, Brian Boggs, just my own personal accomplishment 2011. I'm sorry, my own personal accomplishment, 2011 rides on the Beast. That did not go the direction I thought I was going to. I know it's nowhere near Don Helbig, but I will never get tired of riding that ride. Hey, it's not about the numbers. It's about the fun, right?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, the numbers are going to be there if you're often enough, look at it that way. I think if you try to set out to hit certain numbers on a ride, then you feel like obligated, and it kind of changes it, and then maybe it would take away the fun. But the way you're doing it, Brian, you're just never getting tired of that ride. And if you keep riding, those numbers are going to be there, and you're going to have more rides than I do eventually.
Yeah, because you're not like in a huge rush to ride the Racer and the Beast and all that stuff like you were back when you were like young and spunky, right?
Yeah, I mean, I came into the year, I needed 87 more rides on the Beast to get to 4,000. So I still need 60 rides to get to 4,000. So I'm not in any hurry to get there, but I've enjoyed each and every one of my rides on the Beast this year.
Absolutely. Next up,
we have Erin Leland Tuttle. She goes, so many years ago, soon after Diamondback opened, my aunt and I were in the front queue waiting to ride. They were having an issue with one of the seats. They called one of the elder mechanics over, and he worked on it. He was stoic. But before they let the ride go again, he himself got in that seat. Mind you, he was the only one on the train and rode it, expressionless, but with his hands up the entire time. I'll never forget when his train pulled back in. People were going wild for him. It was awesome. He remained stoic, but having his hands up the entire time made it for me. I wish I could remember his name. Everyone was chanting it. I'm 47 years old, and I've been going to Kings Island since I was a little girl. I have so many family memories there. And now my sons and I have gone. They are both 21 and 17, and they still love going. We have season passes. Our 17-year-old and I make a point to go a few times a year, just us. I cherish those days. I love that I have passed down this tradition. P.S. I rode the original Bat and the Screaming Demon in the Enchanted Voyage in the Animal Safari. I also loved the big slide back in the day. Those were awesome rides. I miss those rides.
Not the
original
slide.
Bat. The original Bat. I missed the slide. It was fun. The original Bat. Not a lot of people got to ride that. You know, it was only open for parts of 3 years. I ended up with 49 rides on it. It was tough. So that's quite an accomplishment that you were able to get a ride in on that, Aaron, because you're part of an elite group.
Yeah, and I mean, Screaming Demon, it's been gone so long now. Yeah, and Enchanted Voyage, where if you talk to most of the population of Kings Island, they haven't ridden I haven't ridden either of those. But let's talk about the slide. So with the slide that she rode, was that the same one as Scrappy Slide? Did they move that?
No, this would have been the others. It was before they moved it. So this would have been like the original slide with the park that opened in 1972. It was over by where the Zephyr is now. That would be the slide she was talking about. The one.
So the one that was
episode.
in Hanna-Barbera Land is not the same slide then.
It's the same slide, but they cut it down.
Okay. My first ever visit. Oh, this is bringing back a memory I haven't thought about in a while. Thanks, Aaron. This isn't a good one, but I was on the far, let's say, stage right side of Scrappy Slide, and going down, it like scraped against my hand and like tore it up and stuff, and I had to get like ice and stuff from the drink place to put it on it because it had like ripped the skin off and stuff. I had completely forgotten about that memory.
Yeah, I like stories like Aaron. People who rode the rides that were there in the beginning of time. For Kings Island.
Yeah.
And with each passing year, there's fewer people, around that remember those rides.
Right.
So whenever somebody brings up something to me, they mention the Screaming Demon, the Enchanted Voyage, the big slide, Animal Safari, those kind of things, it always brings a smile to my face because not a lot of people, that I know remember a lot of those rides. So anytime somebody brings it up, I'm always excited to hear those stories.
Yeah, me too. Next one is Chris Adams, and he supplied a photo. Notice that his whole family is wearing Kings Island shirts of various colors. I think that's one really cool thing that Kings Island does is you can get the old script Kings Island t-shirt in like any color you want. I think that's so cool. He said, my first time at Kings Island was in 1985. I was 9, about to be 10. I had never been to an amusement park and was very excited. My dad was given tickets because he worked for RCA and it was their company picnic. The RCA had a company picnic? I didn't even know that they had a presence in Cincinnati. I guess they were in Indianapolis. Anyway. The first ride we rode was the Racer. I was terrified before and after the ride. LOL. Next was the Beast. As we got closer to getting on, I got so nervous. I told my mom and dad that I didn't want to do it, but my parents would not let me give up that easily. I got on the Beast and my whole attitude changed. I was loving it and it became the best ride I'd ever been on. The Beast was the biggest ride at Kings Island at the time. And other than the King Cobra, after facing my fears and getting on the Beast, nothing was going to stop me. We headed to King Cobra. I saw that it went upside down. Only one way to find out if I'd like it. We got on it and it was amazing. We rode 2 times, then back to the Beast and the Racer. It was a very busy day and there weren't nearly as many rides as there are now. So the lines were pretty long. We decided to ride Whitewater Canyon. It was only a year old. Wow. The line was forever long, but it ended up being well worth it. In the line, we passed a few trees that were covered in chewing gum. I do remember that. That was disgusting.
Yes, I do.
I thought that was pretty gross, but yet somehow it was cool. We continue to go to the park for the next years with RCA. I was amazed at how many things changed then. How many things changed then. I rode Vortex on its opening day. I was so sad to see it go. I'm now 49 years old, and my family and I visit the park many times this year. This includes Soak City. On one of our visits, we did ride Whitewater Canyon. I told my family about the gum trees, and their faces were hilarious. Of course, we rode all of the roller coasters there. My little guy still has a few inches to go before he can go on the big coasters, but he is ready. My family have no fears. One of the things that I like to do at the park with my family was point out the changes and where things used to be. Kings Island will always be my favorite place to visit in the summer. Here's a pic of my family, as seen on the screen for you YouTube viewers, and myself at the park on one of our many visits this year. I'm the old guy in the far left in the red Kings Island shirt. I think the gum tree was actually around until the Mystic Timber construction.
Yeah, he's 49. I don't consider that old.
You don't consider that old?
No, I don't.
Okay, so before there's any offense, Chris, I'm slightly younger than you. Not a lot, though.
No, again, a good story. I like the fact that he's able to share with his family the different changes over the years whenever they go, and it brings back memories when he's riding like Whitewater Canyon, with the gum trees and different things like that. So it's the little things like that that resonate with you, that you remember, and it's always great that you're able to share those kind of stories when you are there with the family members, or even if you're there with friends, just to be able to point out what used to be there.
Yeah. I mean, park history is something that's fascinating. Kings Island has a particularly interesting history. So I think that it's really cool. What's next?
It's Barbara Bennett. She says, creating tradition since 2020, celebrating New Year's Eve at the park. 2020 was the best because that year the kids got to play games with Snoopy, with the Snoopy characters in the building where they do the shows, which would be the Fest House. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people, that started a new tradition from them for them when Winterfest came back and they had the New Year's Eve event. Some have been to that New Year's Eve event every single year since Winterfest came back in 2017, and some even go back to the original Winterfest on those the years that they had it open on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, there's a little bit of memory cloud here because 2020 actually did not have New Year's Eve. So she
Well,
either
2019 it was 2019, and then it turned into 2020 on New
Okay,
Year's.
that's probably what she meant. But I do, Barbara, I completely agree that New Year's Eve is one of my favorite days at the park. New Year's Eve and opening day are always two of my favorite days at the park. Really, really enjoy them. I think that the vibe of the park is electric between 10 and midnight on International Street. You got all the noisemakers. I mean, you get a lot of people that are naysayers that are like, I hate those things. They're so annoying. But I like them. I like to watch people have fun, and seeing, people walking around with the New Year's top hats and the little tiaras and stuff, and blowing the noisemakers and stuff. I just love the energy associated with it. So I'm completely with you. See, she played games with the Snoopy characters where they do the shows. I'm guessing, is that Peanuts Playhouse?
They had the activities for the kids. Remember in the Fest House they had the different things going on with the kids for New Year's Eve.
Yeah, and I think that at 10 o'clock they do a balloon drop in the Fest House too, which is always like chaos, which is so fun. But next up,
we got Vandra. No, this is your turn. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I got it. Vanda Bryant. One of the fondest memories is where the brew house sits. There used to be a leather shop. I have a leather bracelet. It has my name stamp punched into the leather. Anyway, it's still in mint condition. My favorite memory are my daughter's first time riding the Beast. She was just tall enough to ride. She said, that is an awesome ride, mommy. Can we ride it again? You better believe we sure did ride again. It's like when kids ride. Did your daughter ever go through the phase of like with Viking Fury when they're tall enough for that, when they run to ride it over and over and over? Maybe there's more of an economy of rides now for that height limit. But
yes, Viking Fury was one. What's now called the Great Pumpkin Coaster was one. When she was tall enough to ride that, she wanted to ride that over and over again. That's how I got most of my rides. Crewed on that one, was just riding with her. Woodstock Express was another one that she couldn't get enough of as she was getting old enough to ride rides and into the roller coasters. But yeah, I mean, the log flume, she wanted to ride that Whitewater Canyon. She wanted to keep riding over and over again.
My brother went through that phase
She
too. You talk
loved,
about an
she loved,
annoying ride to want to ride over and over again.
she loved getting soaked on that,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, but just, for me, that was probably the last ride I wanted to ride a lot of times. I didn't want to walk around the park just, soaked from Whitewater Canyon. One ride's okay, but if you have to ride it like 8 or 9 times in one day, you're just drenched. And, but, that's what she wanted to do. And I'm glad I did it with her, because there's just so many, fun memories. And just, I still remember her laugh every time that, the big, waves and stuff would come over, and it would just pound us with the water, and just her laughing about it, when she's 5, 6, 7 years old. Uh, you know, those memories, I mean, they stuck with me, since then. So yeah.
Probably still mad that she made you walk around the park with wet shoes. I don't know if I'd
Yeah.
be able
So yeah.
to.
Yeah. So I mean, again, we identify here, with Vanda and what she's talking about, because we've lived that as well. So we got Jessica Donnelly. She says, in the
Mhm.
summer of 1992, we took a grand road trip from Indiana to Kings Island. She said, I remember standing in line for the King Cobra with my mom, my dad, and sister, practically buzzing with excitement, shaking like a caffeinated squirrel. The line attendant let me waltz right through without measuring me, and I thought I had just pulled off the greatest scheme of my young life. But then, just as we were about to hop on the ride, this ride attendant at the front looks me up and down and hits me with a solid nope, like a bouncer at a toddler nightclub. She throws me into the kiddie jail until my family finishes having the time of their lives. There I was, all alone, convinced I was about to get stolen or adopted by carnies. But I survived to tell the tale of the first time I realized I was vertically challenged.
I mean, of all I mean, I think King Cobra is one of the least accommodating rides for short people. Um, but hey, you got to ride eventually, didn't you? And did you die? No, you didn't.
No, no, I think this is a fun story, to remember that you didn't get to ride, and then I do remember those areas where they would have those too small to ride would just kind of sit there, and they're by themselves, and just a sad look on their face, because their family's about to have the time on their life on a ride at the park, and they're kind of like in this little crib.
They should have had like interactive games inside those little kid corrals, don't you think?
Yeah, that would have
Something
been
for the
nice.
kids to do. I my first looping coaster was King Cobra, and I distinctly remember when I think it was my second visit to King's Island, because the first time I went, I dared myself to ride the racer and a backward racer, as we discussed either earlier on the previous edition of this podcast. But I remember with King Cobra getting in line and having to be measured. That's the only time I ever remember having to be measured, because I was always kind of a tall kid anyway. All right, enough about me. Melissa Ann Goens, Goens, I guess that's how we pronounce it. So I went to Kings Island for a summer job between my second and third year of college in 92. There's not many jobs open, so I could either sell balloons or work in the wood shop. I envisioned flying away carrying balloons. I envisioned the movie Up. So I went to work in the wood shop, cutting out wooden names. A guy started working there a few weeks later. I did not like him at all. He tried too hard. He would say that what a great outfit I was wearing that day. We all wore the same uniform. Eventually, he won his way into my heart, and we have been married for 30 years in October. We started our own wood shop making wooden names at Kentucky Kingdom and enjoyed the amusement park life until our second child was born and we settled down to raise a family. Now that we have adult children, we go around to arts and crafts festivals, still cutting out wooden names, and are very happy. Kings Island was the start of a wonderful life together and holds a special place in our hearts. I thought she was going to go the direction of, I was working at the wood shop and there's this really annoying guy. Ended up being Woody Harrelson.
Yeah, yeah, he did work there in the 70s, but yeah, just another, really, really nice story. And, they can always look at Kings Island and say that's where our love story began, we're 30 years ago. I remember, the wood shop and going in there and seeing all the different things. I never had anything carved with my name on it, but I always liked watching them, do that.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean that's another thing that you don't think about that used to be there. That was special for a lot of guests. A lot of
Yeah.
people have those things still at home. Years later, that's just gone.
Yeah. Cool. Next
All
up.
right. We got Lily Church. She says, my favorite memory was in 2009 during the Halloween season. She says there were games, candy stops, characters, and a costume contest in the Picnic Grove area. She says I was free to enter, and I ended up winning. She said the cutest costume with a great prize basket. I remember it having a large Scooby Doo plush, Scooby Bucks that could be used in the park, 4 free park tickets, and a bunch of other goodies. Such a great day. And we've got a photo if you're watching on YouTube. You can see Lily here. And I think I remember this because I was one of the judges for those costume contests back in 2009 when they were doing the daytime event out in the Picnic Grove. So when I saw this picture, I kind of remembered that costume. You know, it's been what 15 years or whatever, but you know, that's just a great memory. Anytime you win something, you're going to remember that, right? But
Yeah.
the prize package, you know, was pretty good too. You know, she mentions the Scooby Bucks, the free park tickets to come back, just a bunch of other goodies. But that, you know, here we are, you know, 15 years later, and you know, she still remembers that. What a great day it was.
Yeah, and if I recall correctly, because I do read the comments, Lily also has wonderful taste in podcasts because I think that she said in a recent comment that we are her favorite podcast. So, Lily, if that is you, thank you so much. You're our favorite listener, just to make it fair.
All right,
Awesome.
what's next?
All right. What's next? We've got Katie Lynn. So when I was little, I was dying to ride the beast, and it was the end of the season, and I was still too small. It broke my tiny little heart. I cried and cried, but Dad promised I'd be big enough next season for sure. Next spring came, and so close, but not quite. So he got me thick shoes and taught me to rise up on my toes just a hair and take a deep breath to straighten my back. We practiced and practiced. I tottered up on my tippy toes like I was going for the lead in Swan Lake, and with my chest puffed, cheeks cherry red from holding my breath. For reasons passing understanding, probably because I really was right at the line, they let me on, and I was so excited. The Kings Island world was my oyster from then on. Yes, first time riding when you skirt the system. I love it.
Yeah, and I remember too, like, you know, with my daughter when she wasn't tall enough for things, we would have in her bedroom, like we would mark, you know, on the wall where she needed to be. And as she got closer to it, you know, she'd be all excited and looking forward to the season. So, yeah, I mean, I can imagine what it was like for Katie trying to, you know, not can't wait until she was able to ride the rides and hooked ever since, you know, from the first ride on.
Yeah, absolutely. Next up,
We
Samantha.
have Samantha Bridges. She said, my family lived in Salina, Ohio. As a child, I now live in Indianapolis, but I love Kings Island. I've been going to the park since I was a baby. The Racer was my first big coaster. Loved coasters ever since. One summer, my father bought us season passes. We went literally every Tuesday that summer, just him and I. You know, that makes it special. It's something that was, you know, your thing, you and your dad.
Mhm.
She said, just him and I. I remember being able to bring a friend for free on specific days. Got to ride the Son of Beast with the loop. And my father lost his glasses on the original waterlog ride, which caused him to go to be blind the rest of the day. One last memory was camping right next door and using the shuttle train to get to go back and forth from the park to the camp. Good times, great memories. You know, again, that's what we were, you know, hoping to see was people that had those special memories. You know, growing up at Kings Island. And Samantha, it sounds like you know, this park has been a special place for you.
Yeah, and not just that, but obviously it was a multi-day trip because she was camping. But Don, did you ever camp at Kings Island or camp at any park?
No.
Because to me,
Well,
I feel like
the only place we stayed at the campground was Kings Dominion in 1984.
like
There was
in a
one near the
tent
park.
or in a cabin.
No, we had a like the ride our vehicle. You know, we just stayed in
You
the
have an
back of
RV?
it. It was
Oh,
not an RV, but the friend I went with had a car that had a lot of room in like the back and that. So we just were able to pull the car in like a lot of people did. Um, and it wasn't like it was. not a truck, but something, close to that, SUV kind of a thing,
Yeah.
what you see today. And so we stayed there once, but other than that, no, I never camped at Kings Island. Went through the campground a few times. Thought I found a loophole on how to get into the parking lot without paying the $2 for parking, like coming around and going through the campground and then coming back up, down where Vertigo is right now along that road. Um, and did that twice. And then the third time, security was waiting for me, and they're like, "No, no." They knew who I was from riding the race. They're like, "No, no, no, Don, you gotta go around, pay the $2."
Mm. Because the person that comes to mind is our friend Brad from KI Central. I haven't seen him do it this season very much, but he and his family used to make like weekend trips to Kings Island from Indianapolis, and they would camp like in a tent.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine something I would want to do less after leaving a hot day at Kings Island than going sleeping in a tent. I know I'm not a big fan of sleeping in a tent anyway. I'm an American. I like air conditioning. But imagine spending all day at Kings Island. You shower in some disgusting staph infection outdoor shower, and then you have to sleep in the heat. And I don't see the appeal. But hey, Samantha, if you enjoy doing that, then go you. I appreciate it.
No, there's a lot of people that love camping, and um, I think if I really look back, Ryan, growing up, with childhood and that, I think that might be one of the things, if there's any misses in my life, that might be one of them that I didn't get to experience, camping out.
I camped out a lot as a child, and I can, with authority, tell you you didn't miss anything.
Okay.
Okay. When I was a kid, well, I was a Boy Scout, and it was one of those things where I was pretty over it by the time I was like 9 or 10, but my dad was super excited about it, so I kind of did it for him. But I I used to enjoy the campouts, but at the same time, like I I didn't have the same thought process when I was like 10 years old where I was like, I'm disgusting. I haven't showered in days. I'm muddy. I'm sweaty. I wouldn't have had that same thought process. Nowadays, as an adult, I mean, I don't even like getting in my car unless I've remote started it. Like that's how rugged I am now.
Remote
Anyway,
starting, I mean, that's a nice thing to have now when you go to a park and it's 85, 95 degrees out. Uh, you know, it's just been baking out in the sun, and then you get into it and it's been running for 10 minutes. That's
I
always
like
fun.
it running it for the air conditioning way because it's designed for like warming the car up. But for me, my car, like I turn it on and I feel like it's not that long before it's shooting out hot air. Now, granted, like the steering wheel and stuff is still cold to the touch, but um, when you get in the car, especially like for those of you in the Cincinnati market, as of this recording, it's been so hot and miserable. But if I get in my car and I start it, it's blasting even hotter air at me for like 3 minutes, and it like I almost feel like it's a health hazard. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. Enough about air conditioning. Dan Cartwright, summers of 85 through 88 were was summers of 85 through 88 was part of a church youth group camp that put on a worship service on the stage by the Eiffel Tower that is now used for the stunt show. Um, Grad night 1988, night ride on the Beast as the ride was closing. The entire ride queue was breaking into loud rendition of Piano Man. It's those memories with other people. It's what I'm reading into this isn't necessarily his ride on the Beast was memorable, is the people breaking into Piano Man.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's
So
going to make it memorable. You remember things in the station. You and I a few weeks ago, we're at Holiday World, and just the things that they were doing there with the row chants, as the train
yeah,
was being dispatched and stuff. So I mean, that's something that I'm going to remember that for a long time, just because of the atmosphere and the energy that was in the station. So things like this, yeah, it's going to stick with you. If you have a whole station that's breaking out into the rendition of Piano Man.
I think that should not only be encouraged but required on the Beast. Okay, next question. Next.
Jenna Duro. She says, my best friend set me up on a blind date in 8th grade with her boyfriend's best friend. We all met at Kings Island. It actually wasn't totally cringe. It was cute. We shared both of our first kiss on Phantom Theater. She goes, now Boo Blasters. And then we never saw each other again.
You may not remember, but the maestro remembers.
I think, it's an interesting story. Sometimes a lot of these stories that we're seeing is, I had my first date or whatever. Now we're engaged or we're married, 20, 30 years. And, here's her saying that, we never saw each other again. So that's her
I
memory
don't
of it.
like how you picked a story that doesn't have a happy ending. I hope that you found true love later,
We didn't
Gina.
pick the stories picked us, right?
That's true. The stories were thrust upon us.
That's
Okay.
right.
Okay. Jeff Billiou said Kings Island made me into a roller coaster fan. Started back in the late 1970s. The Scooby-Doo roller coaster turned beastie. The excitement of riding it over and over again was amazing. Then rode the Beast for the first time. I was hooked with the roller coasters. I couldn't get enough of the Racer or Screaming Demon. As years passed, new roller coasters were my passion to ride at Kings Island. I also have fond memories of staying at the Kings Island Inn, taking the bus back and forth. So many memories of my family and friends growing up and taking our yearly trip to Kings Island. Again, it was this is a testament where it's his family trips, staying at the Kings Island Inn. Like, he does mention riding rides, but yeah, nobody has submitted a memory saying, I rode the Beast one time and the trim brake was off and it was so fast and I got so much airtime, because that's not what memories are made of. Next
I
up.
wanted to mention a Screaming Demon. They said they couldn't get enough of the ride. Could you get enough of those steps to climb to the top to ride that thing? I mean, that was the thing I remember about the Screaming Demon. Not necessarily my rides, but just how many steps we had to climb to get on it.
That's why I don't like water parks that much, because by the time I get to the slide, I'm exhausted. So I don't think I would have liked the Screaming Demon was before my time, but I don't think I would have liked it. Next up, Megan.
Megan Bettle. She says, we have so many memories over the years, but the one that stands out is the Kings Island birthday party in 2022. I let my boys miss school, and we got to hear speeches by the great Gary Walks and Dennis Spiegel. We had birthday cake. I remember the cake, and ate it under the Eiffel Tower, and then all the decorations. But the most memorable for my kids was the book signing with Mr. Spiegel and Evan Ponstingle. My youngest son was wearing a King Cobra shirt that day, and I'll never forget the conversation that struck up. Plus, they got their pictures with them as well. I have dozens of other amazing, memorable stories to tell. Kings Island is my happy place where happy memories are made with family and friends. Couldn't have said it better ourselves, Megan.
Yeah, I was there the day she's talking about Kings Island's actual 50th birthday. It was one of those things where I was honored to be there. We had the national anthem sung by Alton Fitzgerald White, which I now can pronounce. And he was surprisingly inducted into the Kings Island Hall of Fame. And then, Evan is very, I've met Dennis Spiegel a couple times I think he knows who I am now, but I met him a few times for the first time in his recollection over the past 20 years or so. But Evan, the way that I met him was, he was working at the Emporium, and he came up to me and he knew exactly who I was. He just confirmed it real quick and got right into business of, hey, I'm working on this book. These are the people I need to get a hold of. Do you know how to get a hold of them? Yeah, I could probably help you.
Yeah, I remember that.
All right. Next one. Oh, one of my favorite people, Alfred Freeman. This is work related, he says. The park installed a button at each cash register in the Emporium gift shop. If we needed help from the supervisor, we would press the button. A voice would come over the intercom saying, assisted needed at register 3, etc. They still have that. I've heard that the other day. Well, it worked fine until one day when we pushed the button, nothing happened. Nobody knew how to fix the problem, so we went nearly half the summer without our call button. Then one day, my friend Bill Fazio came in to the shop to say hello. He worked in the HVAC department. He said, hey, Al, would you like to see the air conditioning room in the back of the shop? I said, sure. We went to the air conditioning room, and he showed me the huge filters that had been put in the air conditioner. Then I said, what's the radio doing over there? So we went over to take a look, and I was looking at it. I noticed the electrical cord had been unplugged. I said, Bill, I have an idea of what this thing is. What's it used for? I plugged the radio back in the electric outlet and told Bill, follow me. We went back to the shop, and I went behind the register, behind register 5, and pressed the button. Assistance needed at register 5. That's what the radio was for, Bill. He laughed, and several employees came running into the room wondering what happened. That's my story. Bill and I worked together in the merchandise warehouse back in 1971 when they were building Kings Island. We've been friends ever since then, and still talk together on the phone. I could tell you some funny things that went on in that warehouse. The fellow loaded up some trailers with merchandise and was leaving the warehouse to take it to the shops. One problem: he failed to open the garage door all the way, and when he left the warehouse, his trailer hit the garage door and nearly pulled the door off the building. That's not good for a brand new garage door in 1971, is it?
Alfred, great guy. There's just hundreds of stories, whether it's Kings Island. You want to know about the history of Swordsville Lake Americana. That's your guy you want to talk to.
Yeah, I think I'm not going to try to retell his story, but one thing that he loves to tell people is that he worked on this Screeching Eagle at Americana, but at the time, if you were a ride operator, it was a full-time job. So in the summer, you'd operate the ride. In the off season, you'd do maintenance on the ride. So it was a skilled worker either way. But yeah, miss seeing Al around. He's retired since then, but he used to, have his retirement job at Kings Island. But what's next?
We have Kevin Neal, and this is our finally story for this episode. He said, I hold a park record for Adventure Express in 2022. I stood in line and the ride broke down. Everyone left in the station except me. I stood on the ground and waited for 4 hours till the ride was fixed, and I got to ride Adventure Express by myself.
I feel like I should have queued up the clip from Happy Gilmore when he's telling the PR lady, like, "Oh, I've got a record in hockey. I'm the only. I took off my skate and tried to stab a guy. I think I'm the only person to do that." Yeah,
No,
you're probably the only person to ever wait 4 hours for Adventure Express, including the opening year. But hey, hats off to persistence. I like that.
I do like that. Yeah, that's a memory he's always going to have. Is that 20 years from now he's going to say, I sat there by myself for 4 hours waiting for them to get that ride open, because they would always say sometimes, you're welcome to stay. You don't know how long the ride's going to be closed. 99% of the people leave, but not Kevin. He stuck it out.
That's true. Yeah, that's the last one. Don, tell us about the t-shirts.
Tower Topics t-shirts. They come in a Carolina blue, whatever size you might need. They're just $22. That's quite the deal, especially when it includes shipping. And if you're interested in getting one, just send us a direct message on our X, which is Tower_Topics. We'll send you the QR code to make your purchase. And then, after the transaction has gone through, it's just going to be a matter of days before you get your shirt. And you will become one of the growing number of people that are Kings Island fans that own a Tower Topics t-shirt.
Yeah, $22 including shipping. Heck of a deal. We love to see him around. Hey, I'm Ryan Sir along with Don Helbig, and this is Tower Topics.